So today we are here taking a look inside North Montco Technical Career Center. I'm Suzette McHugh, Industry Partnership Coordinator, and joining me today is Gina Pardovich, our Administrative Director. Gina, first I'd like to say that a few months ago you were promoted to Director at North Montco, and I know you have a vast array of experience in the technical field, so could you tell us a little bit about your background?
I would love to. So Suzette, I'm from the Delaware Valley. My parents were small business entrepreneurs, so we moved around quite a bit. Even though I was born in Pennsylvania, I spent a lot of time in South Jersey and moved back. When I decided on a career path, I had always really wanted to be a teacher, but having grown up in my parents' businesses, I took a business route. So it took me into the restaurant business, hotel industry for a while. I did some corporate training after college, but I did eventually get a degree in marketing and distributive education. And I knew that my heart really was in education. My first job was working with summer exploratory students in middle school, at-risk students, and I did a lot of substitute teaching before I had my first opportunity to teach marketing and distributive ed. And at that time, my director had a position, a school career coordinator, so I would be managing the work-based learning for the students, clinical experiences, and really involved as business and industry liaison. So I thought that might be a good idea. So threw my hat in the ring a few interviews later, and I did secure that position. I did that for 16 years in Lower Bucks County. I was very involved with the Workforce Investment Board, with the Lower Bucks Chamber of Commerce. I chaired many committees, the Youth Council in Bucks County, as well as actually holding a seat on the Chamber of Commerce as a board of director and chairing many committees for them. And at that time, the opportunity to come to North Montco as an administrator came up, and I took it. And as you know, I served as assistant director for 8.5 years, and now I find myself as director, so it's a big step.
Well, I find it interesting that you had the background with business with your parents, and then you took that knowledge and were able to put it into education, and naturally that is a nice fit for career and technical education, so it works out quite well.
Yes, it has really served me well.
Well, we know now about your background, but now let's take a look inside North Montco. Tell us about the programs that are offered there.
Well, I find it astonishing that after 50 years, as you know, the school had its 50th anniversary last year, it still seems to be a very well-kept secret, and I can't imagine why. We have 23 programs, career clusters that range from manufacturing, retail area, culinary, healthcare, and students are so excited when they come in and see the offerings and get entrenched in their program that we don't understand why there isn't a line outside the door. But that might be changing. This particular year, our attendance is up about 120 students. We have over 1,000 students this year at North Montco, and many of the programs do have a waiting list, and we're really excited about that as well.
So can you tell me some of the programs that do have waiting lists?
I can absolutely do that. Mechatronics is one of them. It's one of our high-end engineering, robotics programming classes. Students are really working hands-on with the programming component, as well as understanding the math and the structural piece behind how you actually make something work. You see robotics on TV, you'll see it on some of our videos, but actually the students know how to make that happen. And that is true for many of the programs that we have. I don't know if a lot of students understand when you come to North Montco that you actually make stuff and you learn how things are made.
And I want to go into that in a little bit, but first, who can attend North Montco? Is it just high school, adult?
Well, we serve 9 through 12 at the high school level, students from North Penn, of course, Souderton, Wissahickon, Perkiomen Valley. I'm missing somebody. And Methacton. Thanks, Suzette. They obviously can attend. They can see their guidance counselors and ask for application. They can come visit during one of our open houses. And if they wanted to come and it wasn't an open house, a guidance counselor could set a visitation up for them if they wanted to come and see some programs. So that's the secondary program. But we also have a continuing education piece for adults. We have a CDL program where individuals learn how to drive commercial vehicles, big rigs as they're known out there, and get their licensing, because we are a third-party testing site for PennDOT. Also, we have a driver education program that is for high school students from our sending districts. They can come and actually do their behind-the-wheel prep and take their examination at North Penn, at North Montco, because we are actually a third-party testing site for PennDOT for driver education as well. And then we have a thriving night school program, and that is very varied. Those programs change from year to year. Mechatronics is taught in the evening. We have heating, ventilation, air conditioning. We have an electrical program. We have a lot of people that are actually working that come in for continuing education. In welding, for example, we have a welding level 1 and level 2 that'll lead to a certification program. So there are a lot of opportunities at the school.
So you mentioned that people come in and take tours or come to an open house, and that's how they find out about us. What I find interesting is when they come for an open house or a tour, the parents are saying, I didn't know this school offered this. I didn't know you had this equipment. I didn't know you could do any of this. How can you bring more people into the school so they can see what actually takes place in the school? How can you get that word out more?
Well, we're hoping that this segment's going to help a little bit. In addition to that, I don't know if anyone is familiar with Facebook, but we are on Facebook, and we recently have an Instagram account. So they can also actually follow us on Twitter as well. So we're trying to use social media to get everybody engaged, to get parents engaged, to understand about the opportunities.
And I know you mentioned you want to take the show in a different direction, this show, and actually show people how things are made. And one of the things we had talked about is our machining, and we have something here if you want to tell us more about that.
Absolutely, machining and carpentry, actually. So if you take a look at what we have right here, this is a chessboard with chess pieces, and this entire item was made at North Montco Technical Career Center. These pieces, the chess pieces, were actually designed and they were fabricated in our machining program using CNC programming. The actual board was done with a programming CNC actually lathe in the carpentry shop. And I'd like to just lift this for a second because I think everybody needs to see the piece underneath. I don't know if you can get that on the camera or not. There are actually cutout pieces to house the entire chess set within the actual box. So there were 3 different classes that were involved in putting this together, and how this is made, well, you'll have to come to North Montco and see the equipment and see how it was made.
And I think that's great that the students, have the ability to come up with a final product, but also work together with other departments in the school to really come up with something incredible. Are there any other projects that your students work on where multiple programs are working together?
Well, that happens often. We'll have events. As a matter of fact, coming in October, we have an occupational advisory committee, and there'll be several of the programs working together to pull the dinner off. So we bring business and industry in a couple times a year to evaluate our programming, the space that they're housed in, the equipment that we have, and the curriculum that we deliver. And when they come in the fall, we have a dinner for them. So all the culinary programs, there's actually 3, and 4, including our baking and pastry program. And then we have our horticulture program that will assist with all the decorating and putting out centerpieces. And then some of the other programs will actually put together, occasionally we have prizes for the individuals, or they'll do demonstrations. That happens a lot at open houses too. So they have to work together to pull that off.
And you mentioned the Occupational Advisory Committee. Can you explain why you have that? I don't think everyone understands that it's really a requirement.
It is. The state requires that all career and technical schools have active occupational advisory committees. They need to meet at least 2 times a year. And when they meet, they really dissect the whole program. So someone from carpentry will only have carpentry individuals working in that industry, maybe builders associations. They'll come in and talk about trends, what's going on in the workplace, where they see the industry headed, and they'll make sure that we are where we need to be on the cutting edge. They make recommendations for technology purchase, textbook purchases, equipment purchases, and they'll do a safety walkthrough for the actual lab area as well to make any notations of things that we need to improve on.
And I think that's really important that we're not just making things up to teach the children. The teachers aren't just saying, hey, I need this or that. That really industry recommends everything that you do.
It is industry driven, yes.
That's great. Now, another project I know people will be working on that's rumored that the school students might be building a tiny house. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, this was something that's been discussed for the last couple of years. We have students that are involved from, actually the plans were done in our drafting program, the original plans, and our carpentry students are working on trying to actually put the tiny house structure together. Eventually, they'd like to morph that project into a tiny house food truck that would be available for community events, possibly sporting events on the weekends. Community Day, there was one recently held in North Wales. It'd be really great if we had that there. And hopefully have the culinary students and teachers actually man that and have food to sell.
So you would have so many programs involved with something like that. You would have, besides carpentry, the electrical, you'd probably have to have automotive involved.
Absolutely.
HVAC, the culinary students, as you mentioned. So it sounds like it's
a big project.
Yes.
We're not sure how long it's going to take, but we're working on it. And so far, so good.
Well, I think this is all exciting, but my next question to you, and I feel like we just said the answer, would be why would someone want to take classes here? Now, all of this sounds very fun, so that's one of the reasons I would want to take classes here, but why would a student be interested in
Suzette,
pursuing this?
there are a number of reasons. So let me just hop around the clusters and talk about the possibilities. So in cosmetology, if students have very good attendance and are there for a good 4 years, they can finish the 1,250-hour requirement that the State Board of Cosmetology sets out for students to actually accomplish before they can sit for their licensing exam. And in fact, students that stay back at the high school and decide that that's what they want to do when they graduate, they have to pay for that. But you don't have to pay for it if you come to North Montco. Additionally, we have, last year alone, 800 industry-recognized credentials secured by high school students, mostly 11th and 12th graders, before they graduated. For example, in heating and ventilation and air conditioning, sure, you could go to work. You can learn from the bottom up without coming to the technical school, but you will not have the EPA certification for refrigerant recovery. Our students sit for that exam. Just like our students in automotive are eligible to sit for their emissions and safety certification so that they can go and to work either in a dealership or a garage in automotive, but actually have that very important credential that allows them to take your automobile, for example, and decide on whether or not it's going to pass inspection. So you can get your little sticker on the window. That's what those industry credentials mean. And we have students get school-wide credentials. For example, a 10-hour OSHA safety credential, CPR credentialing. Our students in the health sciences, their end of program test is for the certified nursing assistant. They can come out and go to work with that credential in their hands, and then that pathway can lead them right into nursing school.
So these are all high school students earning these certifications, which will really give them a leg up when they go out into the workforce.
Absolutely. So our goal in the high school program is to train entry-level workers. But not only do they have those entry-level skills, they have the certifications on top of them. And additionally, our teachers stress the importance of attitude, attendance, and making sure that students understand how the workplace operates. So they really run their labs as if it's a micro workplace. When students come in, some of the teachers actually have them clock in and out, just as they would if they worked in a business that required them to clock in and out. And they're graded on whether or not they did that.
So there's a work ethic component to everything.
Yes, everything.
That's really good. Now, they're training for the workforce. What work-based learning opportunities are there for the students?
We had hundreds of students participate in paid work-based learning opportunities last year. That's open to 11th and 12th graders. Of course, you know, we have a small full-time program, Pennsylvania Youth Apprenticeship Model. Students have to apply to it. It's very competitive. But those students have work-based learning time built into their schedule so that they can have full-day experiences at a site that directly relates to their occupation that they're studying at North Montco. In addition to that, the students that come part-time have the opportunity to participate in cooperative education. That too is a paid work-based learning experience that is related to the occupation they're studying with us.
See, that's, really gives them a bigger opportunity because there's so many, advancement that they can do because they've had the experience as a high school student. And that, I think, is just hands down wonderful for them.
Many of our students, it's their first job, and many of our students hold on to those jobs as they move on.
I know we've had some great alumni come back and work their way up through companies. And also I want to point out that not everyone is going to go right into the workforce. A lot of our students go in to post-secondary, and some of them go to the workforce and then their company pays their education, which I found that speaking to alumni, and I think that's fabulous too.
Yes, it's a great opportunity.
What about any guest speakers, field trips? Do our students get exposed to any of that?
All of that, yes. We have students who go out on field trips almost weekly to visit industry sites. One of the big pushes, I believe it's this month, Manufacturing Month, and we have a number of students that are touring manufacturing facilities here in Montgomery County. Guest speakers always are welcome to come in. Our teachers set that up, and we never restrict their experiences with business and industry.
And I think that's fabulous. And you mentioned Manufacturing Month. We constantly hear of the shortage of workers. How can we help with that?
Well, we're doing what we can. I'll tell you, in our manufacturing and engineering cluster, all those programs are full. Drafting, mechatronics, I mentioned earlier, actually welding and fabrication, that's also full. And we, for the welding students, probably have 2 or 3 jobs for every student that finishes. Now that means not every student that just finishes, they have to finish their curriculum, and of course they have to gain their industry credential before they leave, but they have an opportunity to go right to work while they're in school and have a job after they're finished. Manufacturing is one of the hot areas in Montgomery County. I don't know if people realize it or not. Recently, I was at a Chamber of Commerce breakfast where the county commissioners were talking about the top 4 occupations in Montgomery County, and the top one being healthcare, and the 4th one actually being manufacturing. And there are 2 clusters that we have at North Montco that offer opportunities to students that are, at this point, very full, but there's always next year.
Well, I think that's great. That's a good problem to have, very full clusters. What about in the night school? I know we have a lot of students that come back at night, not adults that come back at night, who said, I wish I would have come here during high school. What are some of the things they're learning at night school, and how is that helping those companies, especially in the manufacturing field? Well,
we have companies that'll have individuals come back for basic skills. We'll run those in, again, welding, machine technology, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and electrical. And then we have individuals that come back. Their companies need them to have a very specific set of skills. We call that customized job training. And we can actually customize evening school training for adults based on an employer's request. And our continuing education department would be happy to field your calls to take any of the questions you might have about that.
Well, that's good because that's always growing, and night school is nonstop. The people are needed all the time. The jobs are out there. People need to be trained, and that's really where North Montco has to come through.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, now going back to high school students, sometimes you hear that, well, I don't want to go to North Montco because I won't be able to participate in sports or activities or clubs. Tell us if that's true or not.
It is not true. And as our teachers, as well as guidance counselors, can tell students, we avail them to adapt their schedule if they need to leave early, if they have a traveling game, when they have practice. We have a number of teachers that are actually coaches. We have, I believe, 3 Perkiomen Valley coaches that actually work for North Montco, in addition to the students who play sports and actually attend North Montco. So working or attending North Montco and participating in sports at the sending schools is always available to them.
That's great, because that sometimes comes up when your students are touring the school, and we want to make that clear that there are opportunities for them. What about clubs at North Montco?
Well, we have one large club that is our leadership organization. It's called Skills USA, and it's not the only club we have, but it is the largest. It encompasses the whole school. It lets students compete in their occupational area, show off, you might say, what they've learned. They get to compete internally a little bit, and then they move on to what we call district competition. From the district competition, winners can move on to state competition, and statewide competition, they can move on to national competition. And yes, international competition. So over the last few years, we've had a number of students, I believe it's 6, that have competed on the national level. And we did have a student compete on the international level last year. It was very exciting.
And what are some of the competitions that are making it to the national level from our school?
In culinary, they've had tableside service, and a very, very specific niche within the culinary industry. And we've also had our mechatronics students. In those areas vary. There are team events, and then there are solitary program events. Those students have moved on. They've done really well. And drafting as well. Students in drafting have done very well at the state level and moved on to nationals.
And how do they get picked to even participate in the district level? How does that happen for each program?
You know, each program handles it a little bit differently. Some of the big programs will actually have a competition in class. So maybe in cosmetology, there's a haircut and they'll have a competition. The students will actually vote who will go. Sometimes in culinary, if 3 students are interested, then perhaps they're going to have to put a menu together, prepare the food, and the students and the teachers will decide who's going to move on next. Some of the smaller programs, there aren't that many students that are interested. Some are a little bit afraid, but there's other opportunities. If students don't want to compete, they can always go to a state competition as a delegate, or they can decide to be an officer and run as an officer either in the school or at the state level.
And have you had state level officers before?
We have, not recently. We've had students run, though, and the actual race and the competition is very exciting. They get to pick a campaign manager, and so those individuals work together to come up with a slogan. And just like student government, it's exactly the same, only it's our version of it.
Are the students showing a lot of school spirit when it comes down to competition time?
Yes. Yes, they get very excited. We had a very large group that we sent to national competition last year, and they were literally cheerleading in their programs for the students that were going to go. Actually, the competition happened after school was finished, but it did not dampen their spirits at all.
That's great. Now, you mentioned about state and national competitors from culinary, front of the house restaurant skills. How do they get that experience at North Montco?
Well, we have a restaurant that's open 2 days a week, and actually will open, I believe it's next week for the first time. Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have breakfast in the morning and we have lunch in the afternoon, but I caution anybody who's listening to double check our website, or you might even want to call before you come out, because occasionally we have to shut down for some unforeseen reason. Sometimes there's testing, sometimes it has to do with a trip that the students are taking, so always check that out. So also, we have students that prepare meals for the students that eat there. I mentioned a full-time program, and we have some 9th graders from one of our districts. So some of those students with a different teacher prepare the lunches that are in the USDA lunch program. So they get a lot of experience.
Well, that's great. Now, cosmetology students, you mentioned earlier, have the opportunity to get their license if they get enough hours in. What else do they have to do to achieve that?
Well, some of those hours include clinical hours, which means working with clients. So 5 days a week, the salon is open for individuals to come in to get their hair cut, perms, colors, manicures, pedicures. But once again, I always caution people to call and check out the website for hours and make sure that the salon is open that day.
One thing I want to ask you is, we're all over today discussing everything about the school, and I know we're going to focus and look inside the programs next year, next episode, and see what students are making, what they're actually doing. We're going to show some of that so people really, if you can't make it out to an open house, you can get a general idea of what we're talking about. What do you think stands out most to you?
Well, have you heard about the program, How's It Made? It's on YouTube, it's on cable, and a lot of people have seen it. And I thought, that is a really great way for us to highlight the programs. We're not really sure that everyone understands that there's real equipment at North Montco. They're not working with toys, it's not simulations. In some areas, we do have simulations. In the welding program, for example, there's a simulator for welding where individuals can practice a skill, especially a higher level skill, before they actually go out. But they will go out and put on their welding helmet and light the torch and actually weld metal together. They make stuff. So I thought it was a great idea if we could show the audience what is made inside North Montco and inside each individual program. I think it's going to make a difference. When people can see something, they can touch it, they can pick it up, then they actually know how it's made.
And I think that's really great because, again, that goes back to what we were saying when people take a tour of the school and they say, I didn't know you had this equipment. I didn't know you could do this here. Our students are actually doing it here, whether it's serving the public and baking the food for the restaurant, baking the cakes, baking the donuts, everything, doing someone's hair. Our students are actually doing things and really working hard, and so we're very proud of it. So I'm so glad you shared so much of this information with us, and we're looking forward to seeing what students will be on our next episode. So thank you for being here, Gina. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Suzette. Thank you for the time, and thanks, North Penn.
Well, it's very eye-opening, so it's wonderful that we can share this with our students. Thank you. If you would like any more information about the programs offered at North Montco Technical Career Center, whether it's for high school students or adult students, or even the CDL program or driver's ed program, give us a call at 215-368-1177 or visit our website, www.nmtcc.org. For North Montco Technical Career Center, I'm Suzette McHugh. Thank you for watching.